Okay, for years now, the name Jeffrey Epstein has been a shorthand for, well, a toxic mix of incredible wealth, power, and truly horrific crimes. Now, thousands of court documents, the so-called Epstein Files, are being released, and they're supposed to give us clarity. But honestly, it feels like they're just raising more questions. So today, we are going to unpack what these files are actually telling us, how this whole network was even built, and why so many powerful people keep getting pulled into this story.
Right, this is the big one, isn't it? How on earth did one man create a web that managed to entangle some of the most famous and powerful people on the entire planet? Well, the answer doesn't start on some private island or fancy jet. It actually starts in a high school classroom.
You see, Epstein's jump from a high school math teacher to the absolute top of the financial world was, well, it was unbelievably fast. And it was all built on one single connection that changed literally everything.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It's staggering. He's teaching math 1 minute, then he uses a connection with one of his students' parents to get a job on Wall Street. Okay. But then he meets Les Wexner, the billionaire CEO of Victoria's Secret. And he doesn't just become his financial manager. Wexner gives him full power of attorney. Think about what that means. For 20 years, Epstein had total absolute control over a billion-dollar fortune that wasn't even his. It's just wild.
And with that kind of control came some serious perks, all paid for by Wexner. We're talking a massive mansion in Manhattan, a private Boeing 727 that later got that infamous nickname, the Lolita Express, and maybe most importantly, access to the Victoria's Secret brand. He allegedly used that as a cover, telling young women he was holding model auditions. So you see, these weren't just luxuries. They were the actual tools he used to build his criminal enterprise.
So, with Wexner's billions at his disposal, Epstein needed a place to operate far away from any prying eyes. He needed a private kingdom where his operation could really take off. So, what do? You buy an entire island. Back in 1988, he drops nearly $8 million on Little St. James Island. And you have to remember, this wasn't just some vacation spot. This was designed from the ground up to be the headquarters for his trafficking ring, a place built for total control and complete isolation. And the operation itself was just horrifyingly systematic. He and his partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, would recruit young women. Then they'd be flown to the island where reports say their passports were often taken away, essentially trapping them. And then came the documentation. Hidden cameras were reportedly everywhere, filming everything. The final step? Blackmail. He could then use those recordings to guarantee the silence and the complicity of his very powerful guests. So, who were these people? The new files mention hundreds of names. Now, it's really important to say this up front. Just because someone's name is in these documents doesn't mean they're guilty of a crime. But their connections to Epstein are now out there, part of the public record. The files mention former presidents. You see Bill Clinton's name showing up a lot in the flight logs for Epstein's private jet. In one document, there's a claim going back to the 90s that Donald Trump was a close friend. And then there's this other, really bizarre and unverified allegation from just one victim report claiming George Bush was part of some kind of ritualistic assault. And it goes way beyond politics. The list includes British royalty and even famous scientists. Prince Andrew was publicly accused of sexual assault by one of Epstein's victims, which was a huge scandal that ended with him being stripped of his royal titles. And even the brilliant physicist Stephen Hawking is mentioned. He actually went to a science conference on Epstein's island. With a network this huge and secrets this dark, a lot of people thought Epstein was completely untouchable. He did get arrested, but the story didn't end with a conviction in a courtroom. Nope, it ended in a jail cell. So the first real crack in his armor appeared back in 2008. He was facing really serious charges, but he got this secret, unbelievably light plea deal. He only served 13 months, and he often got work release during the day. As you can imagine, that deal created a firestorm of outrage, with many people suspecting his powerful friends must have pulled some strings. But about a decade later, the law finally seemed to catch up with him for real. In 2019, he was arrested for federal sex trafficking. And this time, prosecutors were saying the evidence was absolutely overwhelming. It really looked like the big trial was finally going to happen. And this was it. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. A public trial promised to blow the lid off the entire secret network. The whole world was watching, just wondering,
which of his powerful friends would finally be named under oath. Except that testimony never came.
Yeah, just a little over a month after that big arrest, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead. The official ruling was suicide. But given who he was and the secrets he knew, very few people believed it was that simple.
The whole thing was just deeply suspicious. You hear that the security cameras outside his cell just happened to malfunction. The 2 guards who were supposed to be watching him apparently fell asleep for hours. And just like that, the one man who held all these secrets was gone. And the trial, the one that could have exposed everything, over before it even began.
So, Epstein's death silenced the star witness, but it definitely didn't end the story. Instead, it just left this huge void filled with questions, a convicted accomplice, and hundreds of victims who are still looking for real justice.
Now, his main accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, she was tried and sentenced to 20 years. And she knows all the names, she was there for all of it. But she has refused to cooperate, putting up this total wall of silence. So while she's behind bars, the powerful clients that she and Epstein served are still, for the most part, hiding in the shadows. And let's just make sure we don't forget what is at the absolute heart of this story. Because behind all the famous names and the conspiracy theories are the victims. It's estimated that over 1,000 girls and young women were abused by this network over more than 2 decades. And their fight for answers is still going on. And so that's where we're left, with this massive ultimate question. Releasing these files, sure, it's a step towards some kind of transparency. But it is not the whole story. With Epstein dead and his main accomplice staying silent, can the full truth ever really come out? And maybe more importantly, will the hundreds and hundreds of victims ever see what they would call true justice? That right there, that is the biggest unanswered question of all.